Thank you for listening to this PodcastOne Sportsnet production, available on Apple Podcasts and PodcastOne.
This show is brought to you free in part today by our exclusive partners at PodcastOne Sportsnet. BetOnline.ag. Whether it's NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, golf, you name the sport, BetOnline.ag has you covered. Use promo code PodcastOne for a 50% sign-up bonus. BetOnline.ag, your online sportsbook experts.
The following program is a PodcastOne.com production. He started in a small town in Texas. Worked his ass off to become one of the most famous wrestlers of all time.
We're going to take care of business tonight, and that's the bottom line.
And now he's dominating the world of on-demand audio, and he's doing it for the working man.
This is a damn good outlet for me to spew the bullshit off my brain.
Yeah! This is Steve Austin, Unleashed.
All right, everybody, welcome to Steve Austin's show. I am currently out on vacation, recharging batteries, but just because I'm recharging the batteries, we still got business to take care of. In the meantime, we'll be playing some of the most requested Steve Austin Show classics that have been locked away in the archives. I got a great one for you this week, and here's my producer, Sean, to tell you all about it.
How's it going? Time for another classic episode of the Steve Austin Show. Producer Sean brings you episode number 212, originally titled Effective Use of the DDT. Original air date April 16th, 2015. This is one where Steve answers your questions that you can send in to him at questions@steveaustinshow.com. He answers a few questions about wrestling gear, as well as working at Center Stage in Atlanta. He also gets into some Walking Dead. Him and Kristen, who does a run-in on this episode, they talk about The Walking Dead and what was going on at that time. Also, Steve talks about his experience at a vegan restaurant. I could probably tell him about a good vegan place in El Segundo. I think you might want to check that out. But this one didn't seem to go so well. Also, in regards to the title of the episode, Steve talks about why the DDT should be an effective maneuver and how a particular match between Neville and Dolph Ziggler kind of made him frustrated because there was a killer DDT and it didn't factor into the finish. So you'll hear Steve extrapolate on that. And Steve also no-sells the Wonder Twins. If you are familiar with Super Friends from the 70s and 80s, Steve was not. So that's what's going on in this episode coming up. Right now, it's time for This Day in Steve Austin History, today being March 14th. This day in 1994 in Rostock, Germany, WCW US Champion Steve Austin defeated Ricky Steamboat. Then we jump to the WWF, 1998 in Salt Lake City. Steve Austin and Cactus Jack defeated Triple H and Billy Gunn in a no DQ Falls Count Anywhere match. And finally, 1999 in Bakersfield, California, Steve Austin and Mankind defeated WWF World Champion The Rock and Kane in a dark match at a Sunday Night Heat taping. I got my information from the historyofwwe.com. Taking a quick break and coming back with another classic episode of The Steve Austin Show.
March has arrived and the action continues to roll on this week with huge games across the NBA with playoff implications, and with March Madness on the horizon, all eyes are on the conference tournaments. This week it's go time for the Pac-12, Big Ten, the ACC, SEC, Big 12, and the Big East. As I've been saying for months, there's only one place here at PodcastOne that has all the action you're looking for. BetOnline.ag. Sign up today for a free account on betonline.ag and use the promo code PodcastOne to receive a 50% sign-up bonus. And don't forget to try live in-game betting to stay right up in the mix. Again, that's betonline.ag for all the details. And while you're there, use promo code PodcastOne. That's PodcastOne to get a 50% sign-up bonus. Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get in on the action with betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts and exclusive partner of the PodcastOne Sportsnet.
This is Steve Austin, Unleashed.
I tell you what, that little ass flu virus, a little bitty bastard, can make us so much feel like shit there for a while, but I think I ate enough vitamin C. Yeah, that's the thing. As soon as I start, and I'm never sick, but if I even mention that I'm getting a runny nose or something like that, my wife will go get out this chewable vitamin C stuff, these little tablets, and she'll be putting 2 of those out on the counter for me about 4 times a day. Did you take your vitamin C? Did you take your vitamin C? I'm like, yeah, goddamn. I said, I'm about vitamin C. I'm an OD on vitamin C. So anyway, I think she thinks that's a cure-all, but nonetheless, about over that shit. I want to talk a little bit about, before we start the show, I tried to watch Monday Night Raw the other day. And I caught the show about midway in, and I DVR'd the show. And so they were over in London, England, I believe, was where the show was from. England, nonetheless. And towards the end of the show, Adrian Neville was wrestling Dolph Ziggler. And it started off as a pretty good match. They started off kind of working some arm, doing a little bit of wrestling. And then the whole match was, give or take, about 10 minutes long with one break for television commercials. And right before they went to break, I believe it was right before they went to break, Dolph Ziggler hit Adrian Neville with the damnedest DDT I've ever seen. It was goddamn pretty. It was unbelievable and highly effective. I mean, it looked like it killed this kid. And Adrian Neville sold it with perfection. He kind of raised his head up a little bit, which is what you kind of do when you get that neck shock. And I'll be goddamned if he didn't kick out of it. The best damn DDT I've seen in 5 or 10 years, and he kicks out of it. And then they work the rest of the match, and he never, ever sells the damn neck again. And Adrian Neville is one of the brightest spots on the NXT roster, and when he gets up into the Monday Night roster, I mean, this kid is probably would be one of the best workers there. He can do everything. I love his execution. I love his technique. He's awesome. But, dude, you got to sell that DDT. I mean, why waste that move if you ain't going to sell it? And Dolph, you're the veteran in that ring. That was your call. And here's the thing. Dolph ends up going over after Adrian Neville charges into the turnbuckle. Ziggler moves. The kid hits his shoulder on the turnbuckle. And then here comes Ziggler with his finish, which it's a nice finish. But he basically grabs the guy and throws his back down on the mat and then covers him for the 1, 2, 3. The DDT that Ziggler delivered in the first 3 minutes of the match was about 17 times more devastating than that finish. So come on, guys. Be a little bit more logical when you're thinking of your matches. The DDT, when Jake the Snake Roberts was doing that thing, nobody ever kicked out of that thing. And if you're going to use that thing as effectively as you gave it, man, use it as a finish. Big mistake. And here's the thing. First of all, Dolph Ziggler is a hell of a damn worker. Oversells a little bit, Dolph. You got to back off on that. It borders on the line of hokiness. Hell of a damn worker, though, and I'm a big fan. So I want to say that. And then with Adrian Neville, man, good-looking kid, good body, great wrestler, European background, English guy. He can work his ass off. He's been a bright spot on the NXT roster for quite some time. I've really been digging his matches over there. Here's the thing I don't understand about him. I've been watching NXT. It's probably the best thing about the WWE Network. And so this kid is a bright spot. He's an all-star over there. And with Adrian Neville, I don't know a whole lot about him, but I just know he's a well-spoken, good-looking kid and looks like he's dedicated to the craft of pro wrestling. And so that with that name, Adrian Neville, at least he has a first and last name that I can identify with, and he seems to be a good, hard-working young man. So all of a sudden you bring him up to Monday Night Raw, and you drop the Adrian, and you just want to call him Neville. Now, why would you drop the name Adrian and just call him Neville? It's one thing if you're going to make a T-shirt and just put Neville on it, but why would you have this kid, this good-looking kid, come down the ramp and just call him Neville? Give him some personality and identity. Call him Adrian Neville, which is what he's been for the past, I don't know, how long has he been at NXT? He's a bright spot on the horizon. He's one of the best workers in both crews that you got. He's acrobatic. He can do it all. So I would give him his first name back. It's only common sense. I don't know if this was his request or this was management's request when he got to the main roster, as it seems to be called now. But in my estimation, a mistake, because you take the kid's identity away from him. I know back in the day they were talking about putting him in a Mighty Mouse or some kind of bullshit suit. I'm glad to see that didn't happen. But I just think it was a big tactical error in the development of this kid who has a bright future. And when I say kid, he's younger than me, but I think he's probably got 10, 12 plus years in the business and is a hell of a worker. But to Dolph and to Adrian, be smart when you put your matches together. A DDT, that devastating, and then you don't sell that neck, those traps, for the rest of the match, and then you go on to walk that guardrail, do that 450 splash, all of that other incredible stuff that you did. Come on, man. You're smarter than that. So work smarter than that. It's always better to work smarter, not harder. You're working as hard as you can right now. Those are words of advice from a wily veteran who has been around the horn a few times. Myself, Steve Austin. I wish both of you guys continued good luck. I enjoy watching both of you work, and I'm a big fan of both of you. But be smarter about where you put a badass move like that DDT, and then to neglect selling that body part is a disservice to what you're trying to accomplish. Catch you down the road. Hey, man. I'm sitting here cutting promos on these two cats, and that was a critical critique, constructive criticism, because these guys are the kind of guys that I like in the business of pro wrestling, going out there because I believe that's what they are. They ain't sports entertainers. They're out there wrestling. So I appreciate what they're trying to do. But you guys sent me some questions over here to the website, questions at steveaustonshow.com. And, I hadn't really talked to too many people lately in the business of pro wrestling. Mark Bell and Chris Bell came by the house the other day. I was feeling like shit when they got here. We had a pretty decent conversation. But y'all keep sending me these questions, and I wanted to keep answering them. And I'll get back to interviewing some people from the world of wrestling here real quick. I've got a dream list of people that I want to get out and talk to. But with this damn little flu bug and all this other bullshit, I've got a couple of irons in the fire that I've been working on. So I've been a little bit discombobulated. But with that being said, let's go to some of the questions that you guys sent in. And here's a new one, and this is from Lincoln, Nebraska, coming from Chris. And he said, "Hey, Steve, I saw that Daniel Bryan is being pulled from the tour in Europe right now because of concerns about his health and neck. What advice would you give to him? Does he need to shut it down for a while or maybe change his style? I would hate to see him retire if he had to, but I'd rather be more safe than sorry with a neck injury." Man, Chris, I tell you what, that's an interesting thought. I was doing some reading on the internet. I didn't know that he'd been pulled off the tour. I got a chance to speak with Daniel in Denver some months ago when I interviewed Triple H, and he seemed to be in real good spirits. So to hear that he's having neck problems right now, and I've obviously known that he's had some neck problems for the past, year or so, I don't know what to say. That was the reason I ended up getting out of the business, and I left out way sooner than I would have liked to, and left a lot of great matches on the table, left a lot of money in the ring, and it took me a long time to, get away from that and to be able to move on and do something else. And so I hope for Daniel's sake that if it's another a look, or the doctors need to take some more pictures, or if there's one more procedure that can be done for Daniel, if he's got a great second opinion, that might be very valuable advice to him. For a guy like Daniel, you talk about changing his style. That's what I had to do, because I was a little bit more of a technical wrestler before I got dropped on my head. And I ended up going to more of a brawler style, which worked for me because I was about 6'2", 255. And so Daniel can change his style and be more of a wrestler, but he has that mentality that, he puts his body on the line in every single match. And that's what's hard for me to see, because the guys work so hard, through a body of tremendous work and dedication and paying dues to get to the top. And now, if his body is starting to short circuit on him, that, he would have to change his style or do something. There was a couple of times in a match a few weeks ago, he took a few rough bumps. I believe it was a match with Luke Harper. He took a front face into the middle turnbuckle, and there was another back bump he took somewhere in the back 2/3 of that match. And it wasn't anything Luke Harper did. It was Daniel Bryan, just working his style. But they were kind of alarming to me because, man, when you got a neck problem, when you see anything happen to that body part, you kind of know what's going on. And certainly I am no doctor. I don't claim to be. But with all the medical reports that I've looked at, through all the stuff that I've had wrong, through all my buddies that have had stuff wrong, man, you kind of get a pretty good idea about what's going on. And each neck injury might have some of the same symptoms, but they're all very unique and specific to that individual. When you see some of the bumps that he's still taking, you just kind of scratch your head a little bit and say, man, this dude needs to shut it down a little bit. He needs to slow down and rely a little bit more on the gimmick than the work, and just a little bit less contact and fewer bumps, because you've worked so hard that you can get away without taking those crazy bumps. So, again, I wish him all the best. I don't know the 411 on a complete story on that. If I can talk to one of my sources, maybe I can get more information. But, when you see a guy work as hard as he has, no one deserves it more than Daniel Bryan. So I hope everything works out good for him. Here's another wrestling question. This comes out of Las Vegas. Old Vinny. Vinny says, Steve, as much as I love wrestling, I find myself reaching for things to like about the current product. In parentheses, he says, NXT does give me hope, especially the girls. They're kicking ass. I agree with him. He says, but the one thing that is really killing me in the main product is finishers, particularly how they're becoming almost meaningless. Every time I see Cena deliver an AA anymore, I know I'm going to see it at least 3 more times before the job is done, which would be fine if they would tell a story as to why it didn't work the first time, like taking too long to cover or something. Your thoughts? Hey, man, way back in the day, I kicked out of a couple of rock bottoms. Rock kicked out of a couple of stone cold stunners. And probably before then it had been done, a few times. But, as time has gone on, guys have really leaned on in the big shows to kick out of everybody's finish couple, 2, 3, 4 times. And, man, when you just go to the well too many times, to Vinny's point, it does really start to take the luster or the wow factor or the holy shit or the impact moment from that finish away from it, because you can see by just probably whether the how much time they put in the ring, the setup of what they've done. Has the guy shined? Have we gone through the heat? Has the guy made a comeback? Is it time for him really to go home? The audience is so smart. I mean, there's a built-in clock in everybody's head when they're watching the business these days. So to go back to my point now, you got to work smarter, not harder. Man, you go to the well one too many times, it just is what it is. And again, I go back to that DDT that Jake the Snake Roberts used to use. When he hit that son of a bitch and stuck you, brother, you were gone. Forget about it. And, again, with that damn DDT that Ziggler hit Adrian Neville, I'll use both of his names, Adrian Neville with. Neville should have laid there and got his ass carried out. Again, that was a hell of an end. The rest of the match was great. I enjoyed the activity that both those guys put in that match. But, yeah, back to you, Vinny. They have become almost meaningless. But it's the guys just trying to keep pushing the envelope, and sometimes as, everything evolves, it's like football's faster, baseball's faster, everything's faster, so then pro wrestling has become faster because it's short attention span theater. If they keep going any faster than they are, it's just it'll be just like a bunch of stuntmen out there, just bing, bang, bing, bang, bang, boom, and nothing makes, any bit of difference because nothing hurts, and no one's selling shit. And, the thing about it is when you first break into the business of pro wrestling and you want to be the tough guy, and so you start no-selling people. And you're no-selling because you're dumb. Nobody's smartened you up yet. And I've told you that story a long time ago when a former manager who was a wrestler, Tojo Yamamoto, was teaching me how to sell because I was working too strong. And if nothing hurts me, then nobody cares. So he said, grab my ear. And I grabbed Tojo by his earlobe. And man, he just shrunk back and cringed his eyes in pain. And I thought I'd hurt him. And he points at me and he goes, that's sell. It was like a big light bulb went off in my brain. I understood what Tojo was trying to teach me. And so these guys are kind of getting away from that. Now, sometimes, on the other hand, you get a guy like a Ziegler. Again, Dolph, love your work, but you got to get away from that overselling. That's killing you. You got to work a little bit stronger than that. You got to have some better recovery powers. But anyway, so the business is just moving too fast right now, and before you know it, nothing's going to mean nothing. And that's one of the things that I really like so much about the Sting Triple H match at WrestleMania was because, again, started off with a tackle drop down hip toss, threw in a drop kick, and then a pause. And the way Triple H maintained a serious focus, and Sting just kind of played that underneath that paint, that face paint that he does, and the match was what it was. It was a slow-moving match, and then they brought in all the ingredients from NWO and DX, and it was, it escalated and went to a crescendo, and it was very exciting. And it would have been neat if Sting would have went over, but it was what it was. But you can still do basic stuff. You can still have pauses, periods, then exclamation points within the body of that match. You're in a rhythm, and you're dictating to that crowd. And sometimes you ramp them up. It's like starting your car, when you get in the morning. And you start off and let it idle. Let it idle. You let it idle before you pull it out of your driveway if you have time. If you woke up late and you're late to work, you're just going to get into so much and gas it and haul ass. But then you kind of start revving it up a little bit, and then revving a little bit more, and then you back off. And you let it sit there, and then you put it in drive and you go to work. And you're doing the same thing with that audience. You got a gas pedal, and you either, just let it idle, gas it up, rev it up, back it down, move forward. It's just like working a match, man. If you're going to keep working the same speed, nothing's going to mean nothing. And the business is so fast right now, man. You'll get a guy, he'll knock the dog shit out of somebody, and as soon as the guy hits the ground, he'll pick his ass up, send him to the ropes. And the headbutt. Now I'm off on a damn tangent now because it's just a free-for-all. And I'm sitting here like a fucking idiot at my table. But the headbutt. They made a comment the other day. Someone headbutted somebody. I don't know if it was Stardust or whatever. And they said the headbutt hurts both people. They're trying to cover for the non-sell or the effects, or to tell the effects of the headbutt. Like it's not apparently obvious what the headbutt does. And it's funny because I just mentioned Boss Rutan inviting me to lunch today. When you go on to Boss Rutan's street fighting techniques on YouTube, the headbutt is one of the most lethal, not lethal, but dirty and quick and highly effective maneuvers in a bar fight. It's a vicious move which hurts tremendously. And so, when a guy is given, 3, 4, 5 headbutts in a row, I mean, basically that headbutt is designed to break a nose or knock teeth out. You're not really trying to butt the guy in his forehead. You're trying to go into the softer tissue with the top of your head, which is, the hardest part of your skull. So I understand it's wrestling business, but some of it has to, be semi-accurate. For all these damn headbutts to have no repercussion is just absolutely nonsensical. And so, the headbutt is kind of it has been for quite some time. It's the new rear chin lock as far as an offensive maneuver. So I never was a big headbutt guy in my career, and I probably threw a couple of them, but never leaned on them so much as what the current generation is. So guys, man, if you're going to headbutt, register it a little bit, sell it a little bit, but goddamn, if somebody ain't got a broke nose or missing teeth, a work's a work, but sometimes, fuck, help a brother out, sell something. Here's the non-wrestling related question. Hey, Steve, as a global icon and a national treasure, and if E really does equal MC squared, can you explain to the entire listening audience of your award-winning podcast what your theory is on how the hell Glenn escaped his predicament in the season finale of The Walking Dead? That's coming from Richard over in Manchester, England. Now, for you people that are into The Walking Dead, and I finally got into The Walking Dead after, 4 years, 5 years after it started, but nonetheless, we just finished watching season 5. And so if you remember, Glenn left the compound. He was trailing that dude that was kind of shady, and then the dude kind of hoodwinked him and shot him in the collarbone with a gun. And they was in a fight. And then all of a sudden, here comes some walkers. And the dude, the heel, the creepy guy, gets off and runs away. And then all of a sudden, Glenn has about 3 walkers on him, and he's pinned down. I don't know how in the flying hell Glenn got away. Unless he had some inner Bruce Lee going. He had some nunchucks in his pocket. I don't know how in the fuck Glenn got out of that predicament, because I looked at my wife, Kristen, and I said, man, I can't believe they just killed Glenn. Maybe he farted, and it was a rotisserie chicken fart. And, the only thing that affects a zombie is a blow to the brain. But if he'd have eaten a rotisserie chicken and some jalapenos, which I just gave up, not the jalapenos, the rotisserie chicken, that might have drove those zombies off his ass. But that's the only way they could have got away from those guys. Because as we know, now Glenn was a pretty salty guy through all his battles, and he was pretty timid in the beginning. And what was he? He was like a pizza delivery guy, and he was one of our favorite characters. But he was really in harm's way there, so he had to really pull something out of his ass. But I thought it was Glenn's demise when them walkers had him pinned to the ground, and he had been shot by the dude that was from the compound. So, Richard, if you got a better estimation or a better hypothesis than that, you send me another email to questions@steveaustonshow.com, or if anybody from The Walking Dead can help a brother out and shed a little bit of light on that predicament, because there was no way Glenn could have got away from them walkers, because I believe there's at least 2 and possibly 3 on his ass. And, Richard, you said in your email, if E really does equal MC squared, it does. I got out my calculator just a while ago before I answered your question to go over my facts, punched in all the right digits, and it does equal MC squared. Hey, and before I go on to the next question, I was talking about trying to think of a solution for the water problem, because there's, to me, it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a water shortage come down the line here sooner or later, because we ain't getting enough rain. And, the Colorado River is supplying 6 to 8 different states. Why don't all these damn golf courses and all these water features in Las Vegas? So I was trying to come up with a plan to solve the water shortage, the impending water shortage, which might come about. Because, hell, man, right here in Los Angeles, we're on a 25% reduction. I don't even think we're supposed to water our yard. So the other day, I was in my laboratory right out here in my garage. I started adding ingredients together. I had my damn triple beam scale. I had my beakers and my tubes and my mixing sticks. And I thought I had come up with a solution. I was making powdered water. But and I was trying to make a gallon of water. And so I had all these things combined at a scientific ratio. And it turns out that the final ingredient that I needed to make a gallon of water was a gallon of water. So I didn't really actually solve the water problem yet. But goddamn it, you can't fault a motherfucker for trying, can you? And I was sweating away there in my damn garage, and it looked like, Walter White in there making that blue methamphetamine. I had the Walter White hairdo. I had the Walter White goatee. And hell, just for shits and giggles, I put in some blue, what do you call that stuff? Food coloring in that water. Kristen, I was telling about my wife, Kristen, just walked into the room. We're talking about the question here, Kristen, was how could he have possibly escaped remember when the creepy dude, Glenn was chased him out of the compound, shot him in the shoulder, kind of broke his collarbone or something, and then he had at least 2 or 3 walkers on him, and then the creep run off. So how the fuck did Glenn get out? Because, I mean, this is when you and me looked at each other and said, oh, man, Glenn's done. Kristen, I mean, you and me looked at each other like, shit, man, we like Glenn, and he's done.
I said, Wonder Twin powers deactivate in the form of an ice cube.
What the fuck is that?
You don't remember that cartoon?
No, what is it?
All right, it's not Wonder Twin powers. You know, they used to melt into different forms of things. That's what happened.
Wonder Twin powers? Is it like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
It was a cartoon back in the day.
Oh, man.
Wonder Twin powers activate in the form of an ice cube.
I remember
whatever.
something like that,
Okay.
but I thought that was like, it's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. But I thought it was like activate into something cool, not an ice cube.
Well, that's how he got out.
Here's what I was thinking. No, my hypothesis was that he had eaten a rotisserie chicken, and he had had real bad gas. And most of the zombies, as we know, Kristen, unless they got brain trauma, nothing could kill them. You could shoot them in the chest, cut their legs off, and they keep coming at you. So if Glenn had indeed eaten a rotisserie chicken that had the same adverse side effects that I had been infected with, and he'd eaten jalapenos, that might have been able to drive the zombies away just to catch their breath, so to speak, to allow his getaway.
That's a very good...
That's bullshit, wasn't it? Hey, man, so I can't remember if I told this a while ago because I'm still recovering from the effects of the flu. Boss Rutan and Paul Lazenby asked me to go to lunch today, but I couldn't go because I didn't feel like driving. They changed it. They was going to eat in Encino, about 40 miles away, and I ain't left the house in 2 days. But I went with you to a vegan restaurant.
Yeah.
Man, I'm disappointed. I went to a vegan restaurant. That's the second time I went to this place, and the first time wasn't too
you
bad.
liked it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The first time I liked it. This time, not so much.
Yeah, the quality of the food and the preparation faltered a little bit.
No, dig this. My wife orders a salad. My illustrious wife, Kristen. And Kristen, I call myself a giant global icon, a national treasure. I'm going to call you a Wigum.
What is that?
Wigim. Woman, I'm glad I married.
Oh, I like that.
I like it.
That's pretty catchy.
Okay, so my wife, Wigum. So we sit there, they bring our appetizers to the table, and I'd got a little cup of chili, and which is vegan, vegetarian, whatever you call it.
Vegan, yeah.
And some buffalo cauliflower, which is really good. And you got a gimmick salad, and your gimmick salad had a fucking rubber band in it.
Yeah. I couldn't believe it.
And so you called the damn lady over. Well, she came over to give us some more iced tea.
Well, and I usually don't point those things out, but I thought, man,
Well, you got to point out a rubber band.
Yeah.
Like, hello. I mean, someone back in the office might have needed it.
Yeah.
I thought it was a little bit strange. And, like when you go to the grocery store, as much as I shop, sometimes you don't go to the grocery store enough.
Oh, baloney.
No, that's right. I'm putting it on the podcast. I shop for groceries.
I went to 5 grocery stores last Friday.
No, you did. I give you credit on that. But I do go buy a lot of groceries.
You just go to one grocery store. I have to go to 5 to get everything.
But I know. Let me finish.
Okay.
But like when I go get those things like the cilantro and stuff like that, that's one of the things that they got the rubber bands on.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, what if you'd have swallowed that rubber band and started choking?
It could have caused some health issues.
A what?
It could have. Maybe it would have caught up my small intestines, and I would have had some health issues. No.
No, I mean it could have. I don't know what happened if you swallow a rubber band.
Well, I guess I could have checked for tomorrow and see.
Well, I mean, like I might have given you a Heimlich maneuver or something like that. What if you'd ate the rubber band and would have lodged on your vocal cords, and every time you tried to swallow something, it shot it back up? Like you used to shoot spitballs back in the day? All right, that was bullshit.
Yeah.
But, you could have died. I might be exaggerating a little bit.
Well,
do we have insurance on you?
Yes, we do. But the thing is, it wasn't like she was apologetic about it or anything, or they didn't take anything off our bill.
Yeah. You at least take off 10 cents for the rubber band.
Yeah.
Help a brother out.
No, I don't think I'll go back there. I liked it when it first opened, but now it's just the quality has gone downhill.
Well, I ain't never going to eat at a vegan restaurant with you again, and that's going on the record. Any people out there?
Pick another one. We have to pick a different one.
You going to hold me to eating another vegan restaurant?
Yeah.
God damn it, the things I do to keep my wiggle.
I eat at steakhouses.
Yeah, but there's good food at the steakhouses.
For what? For me?
Here's the thing. But no, but a lot of the places we go eat, because we always look and make sure that there is a menu item for you. So that I think at this vegan restaurant, are the people there just like all vegan, or is it like an uppity thing? Can't they just have one meat selection for a motherfucker like me? I mean, really?
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you go to Ruth Chris or something, they have a vegetable plate for vegetarians, or they have spaghetti or something like that.
Yeah,
but
I might bring that to their attention.
Well, we're not going back.
See? Okay.
I actually considered calling them.
Really?
Because I was so disappointed in the quality of the food today.
Well, that's one thing about my wife. She'll take anything back or complain about anything. She brought a thing of oatmeal the other day, and the bottom was all busted in. She didn't realize it until we got it back here to the house. Did you take it back yet?
I'm going to take it back. I have it ready to take
I mean, she's fixing it. And that oatmeal probably costs about $2 or $3, but I'll be goddamn. You got to appreciate a woman who likes to save money.
Well, and I mean, we bought the thing. It should be intact.
Correct.
Because I wouldn't eat it like it is now.
No, but yeah, you might be there might be some germs and shit in there.
Sure, yeah, it's open at the bottom.
Hey, man, I was talking to people, man. I told them I was still down with this flu, about 85%. When you went to sleep last night, I cranked down that air conditioner, 66 degrees again, and I couldn't sleep. And so I can't sleep, correct?
Well, you don't sleep for long.
Man, I want to sleep for long.
And your sleep is not like the deep sleep that you do need.
No, I don't sleep worth a fuck is the bottom line. So I went in there, and I'm not currently drinking right now because I'm getting in shape for Broken Skull Challenge, which will go on the camera here in a couple of months. So, the flu's kind of got me down a little bit, so I didn't want to train because my body's already run down. A little bitty virus, Kristen, kicked my ass for about 2.5 days.
Yeah.
And I never get sick, and they're sweating like bullets. He was laughing at me, had a damn rag. You thought I just run a goddamn marathon or something.
Yeah, you were sweating.
But at the new gym, you were looking around, and they don't have any alcohol things.
They don't have alcohol sanitizer. What are those dispensers?
Yeah, and at the other gym, the guy that owns that he was like a germaphobe, so there's like an alcohol dispenser everywhere.
Yeah, I was thinking of trying to invent something like a wrist alcohol dispenser or something.
I think you're crazy. But check it out now. I remember what I was going to say. I couldn't sleep the other night, so I was going to go make a margarita.
Right.
And we got this fancy name brand refrigerator freezer, and I won't mention the name because it's a piece of shit, and it's considered one of the top brands of refrigerators you can get. And so I go in there and open the ice maker. And we bought this house about 7 or 8 years ago, and this refrigerator was already in here when we bought it. And this ain't a brand new house. House was built in 1962. The refrigerator is probably about a 2000 model or 2003 model, I'm guessing. But the freezer, the ice maker, is always breaking. We've had that thing repaired about 5 times. And so, Kristen, there I am trying to make myself a margarita just to get a little tequila in my system to work with these virus bugs inside my body so I can get some sleep. And all I got is 4 goddamn ice cubes. I was madder than a motherfucker. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to call the dude that comes over and fixes our freezer. He's a Russian guy.
Yeah.
And they come out of the appliance place, and he does a hell of a job, and he always knows what he's talking about. It's hard for me to understand him because I don't speak Russian. You do pretty well with him. But I think he's got to be working us.
I just think we had one of these in one of our other homes, and it didn't work either, so it's the particular ice maker.
Boy, I'll tell you what, I ain't never going to buy this brand again, and I won't say the brand on the air.
Well, I'm just going to get one of those ice makers that you put on the counter.
Well, we got one of those Ranch.
Yeah.
It works like a gangbusters.
Yeah, we need
spent
one
about
here.
$99 on that ice maker.
Yeah.
It works like a charm.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, you can go down to Walgreens and buy a bag of ice, but right when you need it, I mean, you don't have to go down to the store and buy a bag of ice and stick it in the freezer.
No.
You want some fucking ice right there already.
Well, it's the convenience of having it, in your refrigerator.
Yeah, it's 2015. Everybody got an ice maker.
Yeah.
Now we got a dishwasher too. We don't use it, but you gotta have an ice maker.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see how passionate I am about that? I'm like fucking going crazy over here.
You're sweating again.
All right, I'm fixing to take a break.
And the dogs are stirring about, so I have to go feed them.
The dogs are going crazy in there. Mula just cashed in her chip. She's got her headland on a pillow over here.
Well, she tried to get my attention by...
I know.
Yeah.
Our dogs have an internal alarm clock inside their bellies, and my wife feeds these dogs at 4 o'clock p.m. every single day. And at the ranch, it's 6 p.m.?
Yeah.
Texas time? So it's the same time, actually. And whatever my wife is doing, whether she's sitting on the couch, reading a magazine, paying bills here in the office, taking a cat nap or whatever, the dogs start circling like vultures and then start pawing at her. She's pawing at you.
Yeah.
And then Shona starts barking.
And Mula starts jumping up and down.
Yeah, and Mula jumps sideways about 3 feet up in the air. She's got the best vertical jump of any dog I've ever seen in my life. I think I'm trying to get her a job playing defensive back for the Dallas Cowboys this year. But anyway, I'm taking a little break, take a pause for the calls. I'm coming back to answer your questions on the Steve Austin Show, hanging out here at 316 Gimmick Street, trying to get over the flu, getting my ass handed to me, but I'm kicking out. 1, 2, 2 3/4. Austin kicks out. He's going to the gym today, building mass and cutting fat. Broken Skull Challenge coming at you in 2 months.
Alexa isn't the only one with breaking news. Make sure to hang around at the end of this podcast for the latest breaking headlines on the AP News Minute.
March Madness is upon us, and it's time to place your bets.
All right, let's get to it.
Join RJ Bell on RJ Bell's Dream Preview as he helps you fill out your bracket with his expert betting advice.
Smaller conference action Friday night. VCU playing a team that should be able to make it to the NCAA tournament.
Get the winning advantage and dominate the brackets by downloading RJ Bell's Dream Preview every week on PodcastOne.
This is Steve Austin Unleashed.
Hey, Steve, love the show. First, and this is a Walking Dead question. You were questioning the bandages on Rick. Remember when Rick got into a fight with the doctor? And the next day, man, I mean, they had bandages all over his face. I mean, it was so symmetrical. But anyway, he goes on to say, they were made that way to look like the pics from the comic book. It was a pretty iconic cover. So thank you for telling me that. I appreciate the 411 because I thought, as well executed as that show was, they got way carried away with the tape on his face. So it was paying homage to the comic book, and I dig that. So anyway, this is Eric out of Henderson, Kentucky, and he goes on to have one more question for me. He says, hey, a rumor I always heard was that the wrestler would eat aspirin to help with the color. Is this true? And did you ever do this? Thanks for the time and a great show. Okay, now Eric's talking about color, and he's talking about bleeding with respect to a blade in professional wrestling. You know, aspirin thins the blood. So, you know, if you get a little gig, you know, it could help you bleed out a little bit better. So I'll tell you what, I tried this one time and one time only, and it was in that 1992 Halloween Havoc match with Dustin Rhodes. And I don't know if I was 2 out of 3 falls or what. But anyway, and I always loved working with Dustin Rhodes. He was awesome. But, hell, I took about 3 or 4 aspirin for that match. And it ate a hole in my damn belly. It was the stupidest thing I ever did in my life. Thought it was going to help with the color. And it turns out I made my blade too long and it was too flimsy and I couldn't get in. It looked like a chicken had peeled out of my forehead. That's how ridiculous it was. And because I couldn't get deep enough, no real color. And then so the aspirin, I can't really tell you if they were effective or not because I couldn't get in deep enough to make them do anything. But all I know is that I had a gut ache for about 2 days, and I never, ever did that again. Guys talk about it, but I think it's highly overrated. And first of all, I wouldn't recommend gigging yourself. Second of all, I wouldn't recommend eating a bunch of aspirin if you were to do that. But that's the bottom line, and that's the truth, Eric. I appreciate you sending the damn email in. Hey, here's a good question for you. Hey, Steve, what is your personal margarita recipe on the BSR? And this is coming from Andrew out of Braintree, Mass. Now, here's the thing for you. We just use that, hey, man, my go-to margarita mix is just that Jose Cuervo margarita mix stuff. And so I'll use that. And I used to use Don Julio Reposado as my go-to tequila, but shifted to just Patron Silver. And I'm starting to dig the silver stuff a little bit more. But I'll tell you what, that margarita that I was making the other night, my wife had been to Mexico about 9 months ago when she took her niece there for graduation. And she brought a bottle of tequila back for me. And it was a brand called Esperante. And it's in a little circular bottle with a long neck. And I'll tell you what, I only had 4 ice cubes to work with, but that Esperante, and it was like a reposada. It was so damn smooth that I barely needed any damn margarita mix. But anyway, my regular recipe is I get one of those big tumbler glasses, kind of insulated like. I'll put that thing chock full of ice. And I always start with my tequila first. And I'll put in 3 or 4 shots of Patron Silver. And then I'll start pouring in the Jose Cuervo margarita mix. I'll stop at about an inch and a half short of the rim. And then I'll put in a little bit of triple sec. I didn't really use triple sec back in the day, but my wife likes it in her margaritas. So I started using it in mine. So then I have another cup right there on the counter in front of me. It's a little taller than the mug I'm already using. And I pour everything into that mug, pour it back, and then I pour it back again. Then I get a lime, run it around the edge of my glass, dip it into the Jose Cuervo salt gimmick container you get at the liquor store, and then I'll pour the contents back in there. I'll taste it with the salt on the rim, and then I'll make adjustments. Does it need more tequila, more Jose Cuervo margarita mix, or more triple sec? And that's the go-to recipe for my margaritas at the Broken Skull Ranch. It took me a long time to spit that out. I don't know why I was so discombobulated. I think that influenza is up in my brain and causing me a few problems. But anyway, nonetheless, let's move on to the next question. And it's a funny one. It's not a funny question, but the dude says, "Hey, Steve, why are your dogs female? I'm going to get me a dog, but I just wonder if the females are better companions than males. Thanks, Nad." Well, I'll tell you what, Nad. I had a couple of male dogs. I had old Sam, the white pit bull, which I rescued in South Georgia way back in the day. And he was a dog that was pictured with me in a lot of the WWE photo shoots that I did. And Sam went from South Georgia to Texas and ended up, when he died, in California. And that dog was with me for a long time. And then, I met my wife, and she had a male lab mix that she rescued, and a female. And then I bought Hershey from a buddy of mine, and she's a female, and we found Moolah by fluke, and she ended up being a female. So it was really more of a coincidence that we have all female dogs. But for me, for my money, man, I just prefer female dogs because, man, I'm like, I kind of baby my dogs and rub all over them. I'm a real dog person, pretty affectionate. So I guess I feel a little bit better about rubbing on a female dog. I don't know. Call it kooky or whatever. So I'm just more partial to females, man. And so some people just buy all males. And I think they're both, it's 50-50. It's 6 in one and a half a dozen in the other. I don't think either one's better than the other. People get them for different reasons. If I was going to get me a pure guard dog, per se, I'd probably go with a male. But I'm not knowledgeable enough about dogs to say, if one gender is better than the other. I simply prefer, having female dogs. But remember, if you decide to get a dog, you've always got to understand the commitment and dedication and time that it takes to have an animal with respect to exercising the dog, medications, all the shots, how's it going to impact your lifestyle. If you travel, if you have a family, that's one thing, but if you're in an apartment, that's a whole nother thing. So, hey, man, for any people out there thinking about getting a dog, you got to think long-term how this dog is going to impact your life, because there's one thing I can't stand is when people get the big idea, hey, it'd be great to have a dog, until you actually get that dog and you realize the responsibility that goes with owning a dog. It might be good for you to shelter a dog for a little bit and see that, how that impacts your life. And you can help someone out in the process, help a dog out in the process while you're doing your research. So I might suggest that to you. But anyway, let's move on down the road. Hey, Steve, I'm a 33-year-old man who just suffered a stroke, and I've lost a lot of mobility on my left side. I was listening to both the podcasts while in the hospital room. I know it's going to be a long road back to 100%, but I'm too fucking stubborn to quit. No one can stop me. I have a wife and a baby on the way. Can I get a little stone cold verbal motivation from the toughest son of a bitch in the WWF? Thanks. It's coming from Craig over in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Craig, I'll tell you this, man. I don't know anything about a stroke. I'm not a doctor. But, you know, you got a wife and a kid on the way. I just wish you all the luck in the world. I appreciate you listening to the show. And, man, if you need to get out a piece of paper, you know, make a goal or two, or just put something on the side of your bedside there to tell you to get your ass out of bed or get to work, then do that. But, again, I don't know the particulars of your situation, but I certainly wish you the best. And obviously, you know, you're saying you're too stubborn to quit trying. So just keep at it, brother, and do the best you can. Now, here's a question. We talked about turtles a couple weeks back, about how long they've been here. I think it was around 250 million years. And I was like, how in the flying hell can someone know how long these turtles have been here? And so I get an email from Candace over in Seattle. And she says, hey, Steve, turtles and all other animals are dated thanks to many kinds of absolute dating techniques, one of which being radiocarbon dating. This measures the amount of carbon-14 left in the fossil. As an animal or human lives, it accumulates carbon-14. When an animal dies, it begins losing carbon-14 as it decomposes. Carbon-14 decays according to the half-life rate of decomposition, and using the amount of carbon-14 left in the fossil when it is found, a fossil is aged. That's how scientists found out how old turtles are. Swig of water for the archaeologists. So, Candace, I appreciate you sending me an email and giving me the 411 about the carbon-14. But I had busted out my calculator, and I come up, I think the scientists had that the turtle was around for about 250 million years. I had it at 247 million 0.5 myself on my calculations once I'd found out about the carbon-14, which you referred to in your email. So anyway, that's how they know how old these motherfucking turtles are. And anything that dies, it's the carbon-14. How fucking stupid could I have been not to realize it's the carbon-14? Shit. Why'd I drop out of my archaeology class? Hey, Candace, I appreciate the email. That's a damn good answer, and it's the correct answer. Thanks for helping a brother out. Them goddamn turtles been here a long-ass time, and I guess they'll continue to be here for a long-ass time in the future. Here we go. Hey, Steve, I currently live in Atlanta and have lived here for 9 years from Chicago. What was Atlanta like for you when you lived here, and what was the travel schedule like, and how was it working at Center Stage? Did you guys get to party a lot in Atlanta? I always hear how crazy Atlanta used to be back in the day. It's coming from Michael over in Atlanta, GA, of course. Well, Michael, Center Stage was a cool little building, you know, to go over there and do some TV tapings. Kind of reminds me of that NXT setup they got over there down there in Orlando. And obviously the facility's a lot nicer in Orlando, but man, sometimes you'd have a crowd full of, you know, anybody would show up. And then they had some plants out there in the crowd to try to gussy the look of the place up. But it was a great little wrestling building. I don't think at any particular time I was there was the territory particularly hot. And again, that was during still a pretty young time in my career where I was still focused on being a mechanic than really trying to work the crowd until, you know, they put me together with Flying Brian and we became the Hollywood Blondes. We started trying to work those people a little bit. But it was a great place to wrestle at, and fond memories of that whole setup there. With respect to the party life in Atlanta, a lot of guys that came into town were from Charlotte. You know, you guys like your Arn Anderson, your Ric Flairs, and all those guys that were coming in. I lived 30 miles west of Atlanta in Douglasville over there in Villa Rica out on 20 West. So I didn't stay in the city. I didn't go to the dungeon and party with the guys. The Marriott is, the airport Marriott was where all the guys stayed back in the day. Everybody affectionately referred to the bar there as the dungeon. And so, man, I'd heard 1,000,001 stories about all the shenanigans that went on in the dungeon. It was absolutely a madhouse. And I can't say with any specificity, I'm not going to drop any names, but I just heard the guys had a good time back in, and that's the bottom line. But I didn't really party with anybody. Even back then in the early 90s, and I was married at the time, man, I'd go to work. I'd wrestle, take a shower. I'd get in my car, and I'd haul ass back, out to Douglasville and chill by myself and do my thing. So can't speak to all the things that went on there, but Center Stage was cool. I enjoyed living in Atlanta, and this is before it blew up. I was still living in Atlanta in 96 when the Olympics rolled through, and I was just starting to work. I'd already been to work with WWF for about 6, 7, 8 months, and that's when I realized, hey, we ain't got to be at Center Stage every single week for TV taping, which was the reason I moved to the Atlanta area. And so that's when I told my mother, I said, hey, man, I'm going to move back to Texas. Where do you think I ought to move? My mom said, Steve, we've always liked the town of Bernie, which is about 30 miles north of San Antonio. And so I remember I got onto an airplane. I flew into San Antonio, and my mom picked me up. And we rode into Bernie, and my mom and dad had been camping up there for years and driving through there. And Bernie was a kind of little German community, kind of cliquish, and it was a great little town. And it's really blown up. I drive through Bernie every single time we go down to the Broken Skull Ranch, right off the 10 freeway there. So anyway, I ended up moving down to Bernie, Texas, out of Atlanta when I realized that I didn't have to live there anymore. But segued off your question, but let's get on down to the next question. Hey, Steve, I read that you played defensive end at North Texas State. That means you followed in Mean Joe Green's footsteps. Was that a 4-3 with your hand in the dirt like Joe, or stand-up 3-4 rush end type? You don't talk too much about your playing days. Why not? It's coming from old Paul. Man, I tell you what, Paul, I don't remember what kind of defense we played, but I tell you, I started off as an inside linebacker, and that's how I got my scholarship coming out of Wharton County Junior College, just based on athleticism. But I didn't really have enough discipline. Looked too much in the backfield and just didn't have any discipline, but just run to the football. So they stuck me at weak side defensive end, which was, I was a little bit undersized. I was probably about 6'2", 220 back then, maybe 218. Probably a little bit undersized at the position, but, you're just working off the tackle or jacking up the tight end. Don't get hooked. And I got hooked every now and then, and boy, there ain't nothing worse when you're playing defensive end and you lose contain and get hooked. God damn. I don't remember the defense, but I played stand-up and I played hand in the dirt as well. But I don't talk too much about my football days, but I'll tell you a little bit about them right now. At Edna High School, we were the Edna Cowboys, and I played running back and linebacker, and I was number 32. And I ran about a 4.9 40, and I weighed 205 pounds my senior year. My line averaged about 160 pounds. I ran north and south because I wasn't fast enough to run east or west. And in the South Texas area, I was a really, really good running back. Well, let me just say it one time. I was a real good running back. And I thought I was going to go to a major college off scholarship. Well, truth was, I was too slow. I was lucky to get a scholarship to Wharton County Junior College, where they switched me to linebacker. 2 years of playing linebacker, I got 2 other scholarship offers. I could have went to the University of New Mexico in Albuquerque on a full athletic scholarship, or I could have went to North Texas State on a full athletic scholarship. I took a visit to Albuquerque. They took me skiing. I had a good time. I went to North Texas, and I was hooked. I liked the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and at the end of the day, I was not going to leave the great state of Texas to play college football. And it turned out to be the greatest decision, one of the greatest decisions I'd ever made in my life, because it put me within 30 miles proximity of the world-famous Sportatorium there in Dallas, Texas. And like I've said, I've been watching wrestling since I was 7 or 8 years old. And that's when I started back and forth driving to the Sportatorium on weekends, watching the Freebirds fight the Von Erichs. And so, I was good enough to get a scholarship to junior college. I was good enough to get a scholarship to North Texas State University. Good enough to get a free education. I dropped out of college with 17 hours to go. to get a degree in physical education. And I broke my parents' heart when I dropped out of college, but I was burned out on doing research papers. But I didn't follow in Mean Joe Green's footsteps because his footsteps were way too big to follow. Mean Joe Green is a pro football Hall of Famer, one of the baddest dudes to ever put on a pair of shoulder pads. So while we may have played the same position, and we were both playing college football, by no means was I in the same stratosphere with the legendary Mean Joe Green. Here's one that goes right back into football, actually. He says, "Hey, Steve, my son Michael is really interested in sports, and over the years I've been hesitant to allow him to play any contact sports. He just turned 10 and he's really interested in football. Do you think he's too young to play?" And this was from a mother, and the headline was, "Help a Mother Out." And it's from LD. I tell you what, Miss LD, I don't know. You know, if I had a kid these days that was just now getting into contact sports, I'd have a lot of reservations. I really would. At the end of the day, I think I'd let it be their choice. But that's because, you know, I don't really have a 10-year-old kid, a son, that's ready to play sports. Baseball, I would steer him to. I would steer him to soccer. Back in my day in South Texas, we didn't know what a soccer ball was. But soccer's a great, great sport. Golf. My nephew Neil plays golf down there in Edna, and I think he's a freshman in high school, and he's really getting good. I think he's shooting around an 84. So, man, golf is a great game. Football would probably be the last game that I would encourage them to play. I would definitely encourage the kids to play some type of athletics or to get involved in some of the agriculture things or with horses or I don't know where the email's coming from or what you guys have for the kids available. But, yeah, man, when you see some of the things that are happening to some of these guys in football, and luckily, you know, all the hitting that I did, I loved to hit when I played football. I never really had any issues with any of the brain stuff that they're currently experiencing within the NFL, but it is obviously a big, big problem. And the way the equipment is so good these days, they've almost over-equipped the game. So here's the thing. The equipment can get as good as it can be, but the bottom line is, as good as the helmets and the pads are, it's still the brain impacting the inside of the skull. And you can't pad that, and that seems to be the bottom line on the CTE, the concussions, and all the bullshit. And I'm not a doctor, but that's pretty much the bottom line. That's where all the problems are coming from. So it's a big deal, ma'am. And I would say baseball, track, basketball, golf, stuff like that. Be a lot easier on the on noggin and on the cervical area of the neck and all that other stuff. Hey, man, I got to go back to another wrestling question here. Here comes one. This is a good one coming out of Chicago, Illinois. And this story right here will take you to Chicago, Illinois. Because, Steve, could you please explain the wardrobe process? When a wrestler gets a new idea for an outfit, can they go right to the seamstress and get it made? Are you giving it an allowance, or does it come out of your own pocket? Is it easier for guys at the top of the card to get outfits made more often than mid-card guys? Thanks, Mike from Chicago. Hey, man, this is a good one. Man, I tell you what, Mike, WWF hired me about 95. And they said, okay, great. We're going to fly you to Chicago to go visit the seamstresses that make all the outfits for the WWF superstars. And I flew out there and met Terry and Julie, who still work for the WWF after all these years. And I became really, really good friends with both Terry and Julie. And I razzed them a bunch about them being overpriced and too slow and stuff like that. But they're two of the most talented gals walking planet Earth with regards to making all the stuff that they make. And also Sandra up there, who I met down in the WCW days. And she's been up there for a long time now. But anyway, going back to Terry and Julie, because those were the girls that I originally met with, the young ladies. And so I go up there, and there was no real concept for the ringmaster other than they wanted me in a emerald green singlet. And I go up there to Chicago, and it's funny because it's really, really cold. And y'all know how brutally cold Chicago is to begin with. And I was chewing Red Man chewing tobacco at the time. I don't recommend chewing tobacco or smoking smokeless tobacco to anybody, but I was chewing tobacco at the time. And at the time, I had real bad gas. I mean, I had to fart about every 30 seconds. And so I didn't want to fart in front of Terry and Julie because I had just met them, you know, and I am somewhat of a gentleman when I have to be a gentleman. I'm always a gentleman. Sometimes when I'm in a cuss-free environment, I never cuss. Left to my own devices, if I can cuss, I will. When it's time to be a gentleman, you're a gentleman. I just met these two very fine young ladies, and they're professionals, and I'm going to be professional too. And so I kept telling them, I think I left something out in the car. I'm going to go get my chewing tobacco. And I'd walk out the door, and I'd shit all over myself. So, because you know how it is when you got a fart, and you hold it in all day, and you get this big, gigantic gas bubble in your stomach, and then after about an hour, it starts hurting. Well, fuck, that's what was going on. And to this day, you know, not every time I go back, but, you know, Terry and Julie know what's up now. They know that I had bad gas that day. And it's an ongoing joke now for probably, man, how long has that been? 15 or 18 years. But to go to your question, they made my outfits for me, and then finally Terry, Redheaded Stitch on Twitter, she said, Steve, the office kind of wanted to think about making you a vest or something, and so she came up with that first one that just said Stone Cold on the back of it, and kind of had silver and light blue and white, and it's kind of a average design. And then she made me a pair of trunks with the same design, but it looked like I farted, a light blue and silver and white design. So anyway, that's when she came up with the first idea for the vest and put Austin down the front of it, the three skulls on the back. And the way she did those vests was that's you know, leather material, heavy grade, and then she was melting glue, silver glue. I don't know how the fuck she did it. That's how talented she is. But all the skulls, all the letters, that's melted glue. And then she sewed that or riveted it to the vest. And I don't know how many, over the course of time, how many she made for me. So now let's go through your, that was my deal that I went through on the wardrobe process. And you remember when I first went to WWF, I had my Hollywood Blondes boots. I had white boots with a black star. And, you know, they didn't really have any plans for me, and the girls didn't do boots. They only did, like, trunks, jackets, robes, stuff of that nature, armbands, whatever. And so, you know, you just order your boots from a company. I can't remember the name of the company's boots that I would get them from. And that's when I decided to go with those low-cut shooter boots and kind of accentuate my calves a little bit and not weight me down on my drop kick. That was a joke. And so these days, man, every time I go to a TV taping, I stop by and see Terry and Julie and Sandra and give them a big hug. And those gals, as soon as they fly them in, they're in their hotels with their sewing machines running, working their asses off. And get to TV all day from Monday through Tuesday, the SmackDown taping. They're in there sewing. People coming in and out. They might be measuring somebody. Man, those girls work their asses off for a shoot. And now with the roster being, you know, is with as many people on it, it's crazy. So I don't know what the waiting time is now. I've been trying to get Terry to make me another vest for I don't know how long, just for the fuck of it. And she literally is too busy. And I asked her 3 years ago. It's an ongoing joke between her and myself. But yes, the higher you up on the card, the more priority you're going to get. If we're coming up on a big WrestleMania and Shawn Michaels needed a new set of chaps and a new jacket, Shawn Michaels is going to have that motherfucker by the time Mania rolls around. If Undertaker's going to have a new get-up coming on for WrestleMania or SummerSlam, that gimmick is going to be at the priority of anybody's list. And so Terry pretty much had all the people she worked with. Julie made her stuff. Sandra made her stuff. And so now I don't know how they go picking who's going to make what now. But it is a process. And now with all the divas and all the intricate stuff that they're wearing, the outfits, It's just an ungodly amount of work. And back in the day, it did come out of our own pocket. We paid for all our own gear. These days, I'm assuming it's the same. Maybe the company pays for it. You're not given an allowance. It is what it is. And that's why I always kept my gear so simple. I mean, not because of cost, but I just like the black boots. I like the black trunks. And, of course, then I acquired the knee braces because of knee problems. And then Terry started making me those badass vests. And that's how my outfit came together. And that's basically a long story short about the wardrobe process in the WWF. And then P.S. Mike says, there's nothing wrong with shampooing and conditioning your goatee. I do it every day as well as get facials, manicures, and pedicures often. Women like a clean man who takes care of themselves. No shame in the game, Michael. People been trying to get me to put some damn conditioner on my goatee. I guess I'm going to have to take them up on that and put some softener or some conditioner on this motherfucker and see how that works out for me. Let's give a shout-out to Geico for supporting the Steve Austin Show. Go to geico.com, and in 15 minutes, you could be saving 15% or more on car insurance. That's right. Save hundreds of dollars on car insurance at geico.com. Extra money in your pocket? It may just be the most rewarding thing you do today. Then, after your car's insurance is in order, take some time to get your lawn right. I always try to keep my lawn at the main event level, but nature tends to lay the smack down. Heat, drought, nasty lawn-ruining bugs, weak, thin grass, and so many damn weeds you think it was the Royal Rumble. Well, our new sponsor, Scott's Turf Builder, has the components you need for a thick, green, lush lawn. All it takes is 4 simple feedings to help crowd out pesky weeds by creating a greener, stronger lawn. Feedings multiple times throughout the year with Scott's make your lawn durable and more resilient. Just once in early spring, late spring, summer, and fall for a greener, stronger lawn all year long. Scott's will give your yard the nourishment it needs to help your weak, thin lawn recover. And Scott stands by their no-quibble money-back guarantee. If you ain't satisfied, you get your money back. Start your Scott's Turf Builder program today because this is a Scott's Yard. All right, I'm giving Sean a go-home cue, so let's wrap it up for this week. Make sure you check out PodcastOne.com and subscribe to The Steve Austin Show so you don't miss any of these classic episodes. Before I ride off in the sunset, I do want to throw out a couple of plugs. I still got a beer. It's the badass Broken Skull IPA, the finest IPA in the United States of America, and that's the bottom line. Made by El Segundo Brewing Company. You can find Broken Skull IPA at Whole Foods and Total Wines if you live in Cali. If you ain't in Cali, you're probably SOL. And if you're looking to get a badass pocket knife, I got 2 for you. Cold Steel Broken Skull Knife, Cold Steel Working Man Knife. Get them at my Amazon store. Amazon.com/shop/Steve Austin, or go to the Cold Steel Knives website and check out all their badass knives. Also, one more big shout out to all my sponsors to make this show possible. That's how I'm able to bring this show to you free twice a week. Please support them because they support us. For more info, check out the podcast description to this episode for details. Folks, I am on social media, Twitter and Instagram, at Steve Austin BSR. Folks, I'll be back soon, but until then, my name is Steve Austin, and I will catch your ass down the road.
Download new episodes of Steve Austin Unleashed every Thursday at PodcastOne.com. That's PodcastOne.com.